Thank you, everyone who has decided to take some time out of their Wednesday evening or another time if you are not in Australia to listen to me talk about how you can use LinkedIn to actually find a job. So this workshop will give you a few little tactics you can use to use the platform to give you a bit of an advantage when it comes to job hunting. All right, so what we're going to cover in the workshop, we're going to talk a little bit, I'll give you a little bit of info about me, not for too much time. The main body of the workshop is going to include 3 primary tactics on how to use LinkedIn to land that job that you're after, and also let you know how to contact me if you wanted to. And my last couple of workshops ran over time by a bit, so I'm really going to try and keep this one to an absolute maximum of 30 minutes. So let's get started. Oh, importantly, I need to tell you what I'm not going to cover. So I'm not going to be covering the boring kind of standard option of searching for jobs on LinkedIn through open job roles that are available on the platform, like job ads. And that's because I assume that all of you already know how to do that. It's pretty straightforward. There's nothing magical to it. It's really easy. Also, I am not going to cover how to optimize your profile to make the job search more beneficial to you. That would be potentially its own topic and for an entirely separate workshop. So if anyone is keen on that, please drop a comment in the chat. Let me know. And if enough of you are interested in that, I'll do a future workshop to cover that topic. Once we get into the workshop, I'll cover on those 3 areas of how to use LinkedIn for your job hunt. And then I'll finish up with a recap to go back over what we spoke about through the workshop. And then I'll answer any questions from the chat. A quick note to anyone who has not attended one of my workshops before, or maybe just doesn't know who I am or hasn't contacted me before. If you're keen to have a free initial consultation with me, just jump on my profile on LinkedIn and use the link up the top that says free initial consultation. And that'll take you directly to a page where you can book a time that suits you to have a chat. Okay, so who am I and why should you care? For those that don't know who I am. So I'm Dan. I've been working in the defense and aerospace industries for almost 20 years now. And so my goal here today is to show you how to use a few different techniques on LinkedIn to significantly increase the likelihood of you landing that job that you want. And so for anyone who's been following me for a while, I've been highly active on LinkedIn since about the start of 2022. And in that time, I've learned a whole lot about how the platform works. And so I'm going to share some of the more successful tactics that people that I've coached have used. So how do I help people? I've been mentoring others, both formally and informally, all throughout my career. I started coaching and mentoring younger people outside of my job recently because I really just love it. And helping people get past their career roadblocks or issues and achieve their goals is a really fulfilling thing for me. So that's why I do that. And that's how I help people. How to contact me, I already told you how to do that. Won't cover that again. So that's enough about me. Let's get into the workshop. So first method, getting active. It's a bit of background. I've built this workshop to move from the easiest method or the easiest tactic through to the most difficult. And that's just for most people generally. Some of you may find this more difficult and step 3 easier, but for most people, this is going to go from easiest to most difficult. So getting active really is exactly what it says. It's getting onto the platform on a regular basis, at least 3 times per week, and using it for what it is designed for. So during your time on LinkedIn, you're going to be a man on a mission or a woman on a mission, I guess. It's not going to be mindlessly scrolling, looking for something cool to read or a post to get some motivation from. You are going to be focusing. So you'll be actively searching out posts from people and businesses in your industry or perhaps the industry that you're hoping to move into. And so you're going to be spending focused effort on starting as many meaningful conversations as possible through comments. So commenting on the posts from those people and those businesses. So it's really important when you're doing this to remain consistent, because a single comment or even, a couple of weeks worth of comments is not really going to make a huge difference. You really need to be putting yourself out there and consistently interacting with people and businesses for this to have any real impact. So if you start and you don't follow through with this, which is really common, this isn't going to help you. So if you're going to do this, make sure that you commit. So when you're interacting with other people's posts, you want to make sure that the comments that you're making are meaningful, insightful, genuine. Emojis and simple, like, I agree comments are basically useless. And if anything, they kind of detract from your online presence. You really want to be only commenting on things where you can add some kind of value or compliment the person to say that you received some kind of value from the post. And other than commenting and interacting with other people's posts, you can also start sharing other people's posts on your own timeline with your own commentary or thoughts as a way of initiating conversations within your network. So this process is going to take you at least 6 weeks of showing up multiple times per week consistently and doing that work before you even start to learn anything meaningful or see any results, just to give you some kind of realistic ideas of what the timeline might be like to get some results out of this process. So during this time, you're basically conducting market research. You're seeing which companies are most active here on LinkedIn, and which companies' employees are most active too. And at the same time, you're increasing the general awareness of you as a potential employee to those companies that you interact with. And more often, it's going to be their employees of those companies that you interact with. So the goal of this process, getting active, is 2 parts. First part, you want to learn as much up-to-date information about your target companies as you possibly can. This is market research, and it's going to help you form a much better view of your industry and where to focus your efforts while job hunting. This puts you in a really solid position to put together the best application for positions when they're advertised. And also, it puts you at an advantage during the interview due to your familiarity with the business, because you've been basically stalking them on LinkedIn and interacting with everything that they put up online. The second part, or the second part of the goal for this process, is that you want to increase the level of awareness of you, as in your individual self, as a potential employee. And you want that awareness to be increased across as many suitable companies and their employees as possible. So this, for anyone who studied marketing before, is basically the top of the funnel part of your personal brand. So that's why I've got the image of the marketing funnel there. It's awareness. If people don't know who you are, they're less likely to want to hire you. So awareness is the first stage of any prospective buyer or hirer. It's the first stage that they go through before buying something, or in this case, hiring someone. And in a traditional job hunt, this happens at the application stage when you submit your CV and your cover letter in response to a job ad. So what we're aiming to do with this process, what we're aiming to do here, is to promote the awareness of you as a potential candidate before you even apply for the role, which will put you at an advantage over other people who have just come in cold and applied. So to summarize that section, the idea here is that you're going to build your own knowledge, and that's building your knowledge about people in your industry and the companies in your industry. And you're going to build other people's awareness of you, which is that top of the marketing process, top of funnel. Get people to know who you are and what you're about, because that's going to help you when it comes to the application process. So by consistently interacting on LinkedIn, you'll naturally build that body of knowledge and familiarity with businesses up that are active on LinkedIn. And by being consistent over time, Your name, when you make a comment, and your headshot will be seen regularly by many people in your industry. I mean, that's just going to build their awareness of you and their familiarity with you. So think of yourself as a product, and the hiring manager is the customer, and you really want to be the best possible product for that customer. Second tactic, making deeper connections. So this method is a little bit harder for most people. It requires you to put yourself out there a little bit more strongly and get directly in contact with people on LinkedIn via direct message or DM. Now that you're a regular on the platform from the last step, you've been interacting with other people's posts, you've been commenting, you've been starting conversations in those comments, and you've been reposting other people's material and adding your own thoughts or insights, you're going to start reaching out via DM to people who fit in one of the following categories. First category is someone who has the job that you want or you are seeking to get, regardless of what company they work for. So for example, if you were looking for a project manager role, which is obviously a role that lots of people hold, you could reach out to anyone at all that has an interesting profile that is currently in a project manager role. The second category of people are going to be people that work at a company that you're interested in working at. So it doesn't matter what role they hold at that company, just as long as they work at that company and that company is somewhere where you are interested in working at in the future. The third category is you're looking for the hiring managers specifically for a role that you're interested in, even if you aren't going to apply for that role this time round, if it's something you might do in the future. So you're looking for those hiring managers. They do identify them in the job ads on LinkedIn. And those are the types of people who you want to connect with, because you can have meaningful conversations and find out a lot of information. And then the fourth category of person is just a prominent person in your industry or in an industry that you're targeting getting into. This can be a little awkward for a lot of people, as you're starting conversations with a complete stranger on the internet. However, you'll be relieved to know that lots of people are actually quite receptive to it as long as you approach it correctly. So the correct approach, or one correct approach, there are numerous ways to do this, but the way that I find works the best is when you're cold DMing someone, make sure you focus on the following areas to get the best results. First area is only DM people that you are actually interested in having a conversation with. This is another way of saying focus on quality, not quantity. Quantity does matter, but if you can't see yourself having an interesting conversation with this person, don't DM them. You're wasting your time and you're wasting their time. If you aren't selective with your target audience of who you DM, you will have less success. And I also promise you will enjoy it a whole lot less. Second thing to keep in mind when cold DMing is start by complimenting them in some way. So the example that I've written here is, hi, whatever the name is, I've reviewed your work history and I find it fascinating how and then input something about what you've actually read in their profile to show that you've got some interest in their work history and what they're all about. So it's important that this compliment is specific to them and based on something that you've read that they've posted or commented, or it's in their profile. Basically, show that you've put some effort in to really understand them as a person as much as you can by reading their comments or their profile. So the third thing to keep in mind when cold DMing is there's always an ask, right? You're going to be asking for something. Typically, it's just a conversation. So when you're asking someone to share something about themselves, you really want it to be clear that you're asking them because you think that they're the best person to ask. But you need to make the ask gentle. Don't be too direct. Often people will respond well to things like professional flattery. So you compliment them on their work history or some transition they've made. but don't be too over the top because it's just weird. And people don't respond well to that. And you're going to feel strange being a little bit too flattering. So one good way to think about it is often appealing to their work history and their experience and what you can assume is their industry knowledge. So you're basically giving them some kind of compliment that puts across the I guess the message that you respect them for their professional history and you would like to understand more about them as a person and as a professional. So when you ask, generally speaking, when you ask people to talk about what they do, many are more than willing to open up about the goods and the bads. You just need to show that genuine interest, and a lot of people will open up. Make sure that you reciprocate too. That's really important. So all in all, this process is really just networking, right? But it's with a process to improve the odds of it being effective for you. Ideally, you want to set yourself a weekly target of how many cold DMs you're going to send and stick to it. But remember my earlier comment about quality versus quantity. So the goal of this process is to increase your network online, on LinkedIn, but not just in a number sense. The number of connections doesn't matter if they're all rubbish and they're not the right connections for you. You have to build the right network that's going to help you land that job or have a wider network that gets you more influence or more connections into people that have influence in the areas where you want to get that job. So you're attempting to build genuine relationships with these people, right? So make sure that that is your focus when you're interacting. It's about building a relationship. It's not transactional. It's not about what you can get. It's about building a professional network of genuine relationships. And like all networking, it's important to remember that you're there to give, right? So make sure that you support people that you connect with in any way that you can. And if they're really active on LinkedIn, ask them if there's any way they'd like you to support them. And if there is a way, they'll tell you, I guarantee that. So briefly, stepping back to the marketing stages that we covered a couple of slides ago, this tactic, this method of cold DM outreach, it sits somewhere between the awareness and consideration stages. So you are moving down towards that conversion stage. And the conversion in this context is getting a job offer. So the summary of that is build deeper, more meaningful connections through DM conversations. This tactic will definitely give you a long-term advantage because it builds your reputation and it builds the size of your network. In the short term, you can also use it by focusing on building connections with people that are closely connected in with your target companies or target roles. But it is a much better long-term strategy. So the third method, and most daunting, is creating content. This option is going to be the most uncomfortable for pretty much everyone. And the stats that I saw recently is that less than 1% of accounts on LinkedIn are regularly creating content, writing posts, putting up ideas, infographics, whatever it is, less than 1% of people on LinkedIn. So if you can achieve this, as uncomfortable as it is, you are setting yourself apart from 99% of everyone else on LinkedIn. You are differentiating yourself purely by consistently showing up. But you are going to be putting your thoughts out into the wild, and you're going to be waiting to see how it's received. And that can be an awkward and uncomfortable process. It's daunting and it can be very nerve-wracking. But if you remain consistent and if you do remain consistent over a reasonable period of time, you'll see these two things happen. The first is just by being consistent, you will start getting more comfortable with doing that uncomfortable thing, regardless of how it's received, regardless of how many likes, comments, whatever the metric is. I've had plenty of posts that have literally had 0 likes, 0 comments, 0 interactions. And it's okay. You get used to that. The second thing that you'll see happen if you consistently put together posts, is that you will start getting better. You will get much better at posting. And like anything in life, the more you do it, the better you get. So now that you've mastered the previous step, which is that conversation starter through comment and the cold DM, it's time to really start putting yourself out there. So this experience is different for everyone. And there are a huge amount of resources out there to help you formulate something like a content strategy. But I would recommend, especially in the context of job search, just get started. Don't worry about any of the strategy stuff or anything like that. You can deal with that later on down the track. Just get your content muscle working and working regularly. Set a minimum number of posts per week and stick to it over the long term. It's the only way that you are going to improve your ability to create meaningful and useful information for people and become more comfortable with the process. So the goal of this process is to achieve awareness of you as an active industry participant who has meaningful and deep insights into topics that are relevant in your industry. Secondly, you want to achieve consistent visibility to influence, you want to achieve consistent visibility in the eyes of influential people within your industry. So this builds your credibility. Third goal is you want to achieve an increase in your ability to communicate effectively, which is an essential skill for every role. And so when people are looking at your LinkedIn profile, when you apply for that job, if you have really high quality posts that are well put together, well thought out, meaningful, useful, you've already shown your skills of communication. So when it comes to interview, the hiring manager already knows that about you. And the fourth goal is showing your ability to consistently turn up and provide meaningful and thoughtful inputs to relevant situations or topics. And don't underestimate that, because a lot of people start, but not a lot of people continue. So once you've mastered the consistently showing up part, however many times per week you set yourself as a target, it's time to move into the more advanced creating strategies. But that's outside of scope for this workshop, and it could certainly be a topic of a whole separate workshop in and of itself. So if you end up down the rabbit hole like I have, you'll find yourself naturally drawn to resources that can help you hone your creating skills. But if you do have any questions about it, I'm more than happy to answer them via DM, or, if anyone wants a workshop on that, I'm more than happy to throw that together. So the take-home message from the third tactic is that by regularly putting your ideas onto LinkedIn, you build a reputation beyond what's possible in any other way. Whilst this tactic is a long-term play, it can make a significant difference to your long-term employment prospects. The knowledge in your head and the way you present it is an effective marketing tool for yourself in the hunt for your dream job. And you write it once, but it's there forever. So people will go back through your profile if they're looking at you for a role. Sometimes, not always. So it's important to make sure that what you're putting out there represents you and who you are and what you stand for. So I'll just quickly recap because, I think I'm running on time. That's great. 3 tactics. First one, get active on LinkedIn. Start conversations through comments, repost other people's materials with your thoughts. That's the first step. It's the easiest. It's the easiest to do, the least friction. Get started today. Second tactic is make deeper connections, and you make deeper connections through meaningful conversations, and you build them through direct messaging. And then the third tactic is to create your own content. This is really about building your online presence, and it is a long-term play, so you need to stay consistent. This is the section where I will quickly check the chat for any comments or questions. Okay, I see no comments. So I will take that as a sign that no one has any comments or questions at this stage. Please, if you think of anything or anything comes up, just send me a DM. More than happy to chat, reach out. I'll talk to you. We can schedule a call if you want. and I'll help you in any way that I can. I hope that this has been useful to guide you towards those 3 tactics that can really help you stand out. And what you're aiming to do is differentiate yourself. So those 3 levels were put in that way for a reason. The first is it's a basic level of differentiation. The second one is that human to human connection that you can achieve through direct messaging. That is a way to differentiate yourself because you become a known quantity to the people that you're talking with. And then the third part about creating content is really just doing the same thing at scale. Instead of having 100 conversations every week in DMs, you're having 1 conversation with hundreds of people. And that's the way to get your name out there and to put yourself at an unfair advantage when it comes time to applying for that next job. Thank you, everyone that took the time to join in, and hit me on the DMs. Let me know what you thought. And the next workshop will be in August. Haven't decided on the topic yet, but if you have any ideas that you would like me to cover, please shoot me a message. More than happy to cover anything you guys are interested in. Thank you.